therefore I'm going to do a little repeat. All right, let's just make sure that this is doing sound. Is it doing sound? Okay, hopefully this thing is doing sound. Can't do the check easily while we're on live stream. Okay, so we're featuring jigs for April Fiddle Club, and Scottish jigs have the dotting, the lilt in them, and that'll be all the way through. In the meantime, I'm featuring a bunch of different tunes today. And this first one, we'll just get right to the tunes. So this tune is made for dancing. It was composed by David Ross, who's an accordion player from Scotland. He plays by ear, and so this tune was given to me by a dance teacher who had David Ross play for the dance, and he composed a tune specifically for the dance, but he had never written it down. He composed it in his head on his instrument, played it live, and so somebody else who was nearby wrote it down. And so I was given this little chicken scratch version with little arrows saying, now play this part again. And now go down and to play this. This is actually the second ending, even though I wrote it before the first ending. Things like that. So I cleaned it up. And then I played it for Linda Henderson, who is the dance teacher I was speaking about. And Linda's really happy to have this tune because it was specially made for the dance. The tune is called Advance and Retire, which is the name of a dance maneuver where, two dancers that are facing one another will come forward and then back up. And so that's, I don't remember if the dance had that in it though, but that's the name of the tune. Let me play it for you. So that is the tune by David Ross, Advance and Retire. Key of G, and let's learn it. So the pickup note is D. Okay. Let's add the pickup note. Now, if you're wondering, all of you are playing fiddles, as it happens in our live group today. If you're wondering about bowing, it's up to you. This tune was written by an accordion player, so he really didn't care what bowing you're using. So I usually play a pickup note up bow, but it's not a hard and fast rule. So let's play our beginning again. You ready for the next little bit? Okay, so the next bit, parallel in rhythm, different notes. The pickup note for the next is B. Okay, so now we have two bits. Let's put them together. So far, so good? All right. We have a pickup note for our next thing. We were just on a D, and we play another D as a pickup note. Let's assume we've got that. Next bit is a scale. We start from a high G note and go right down the scale. Now, it is in fact a scale that just goes all the way down to a D. However, if we went straight down that scale, we have 12 notes to do it in. We go too far if I just kept going straight down. So it has a little jog in it. It goes up from the A and then proceeds down from there. So let's play the scale from the top, from the G, with the jog in it. Make sure we're still lilting. All right, let's put the 4 bars together. Pickup note was let's do that again. Pretty good. You ready to go on? Mm-hmm. Does anybody have any questions about anything we've done so far? Oh. All right. Next bit starts the same way. Very familiar, right? So let's just play that. This time the scale has a little gap in it because we're trying to end on a G. It's in the key of G. We want to resolve on G. So we're going. So first of all, that scale coming down skips the C note. So let's just do that bit. And the ending, just to re-emphasize, we're in the key of G. So coming down the scale, skip a note. Okay, so far we've got an entire first half of the tune. I'll map that out again. So we have pickup note D, pickup note B, scale with a jog, same. This time the scale has a gap. Let's play it all. how's that working out? Questions? More practice needed?
Just the practice on that very first scale, the very first scale coming down.
Okay, where it's the big long one? Yeah. Up here. And then it's straight down.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So it should just be naturally A, G.
Right.
But it's
Back up.
A, B, and then goes to G. And continues on down the scale. Okay, let's play the whole thing again so you have a chance to put that in practice. So far, so good? All right. Ready for the next part? The pickup note is a rest. No pickup note for this part. You can always make one up. And there's no harm in doing that. The composer did not provide a pickup note. Either that or the transcriber did not provide a pickup note. So I'm going with the no pickup note thing. So that's our first measure of the B part of this tune. It's we're now momentarily in the key of C, so we're playing C arpeggio notes, C and E. So we're starting on the E note, and that is a C natural because we're in the key of G, no C sharp here, and then climb the scale. So far, so good? It's a sequence next. We're doing the same basic thing, one note down the scale. So our next one is... We don't climb up the scale at the end. So putting the two together... So far, so good? Any more questions on that?
Is that an F sharp?
Yes, F is sharp here.
No
Yep.
wonder it sounded bad on my side.
Yeah, it's better if it's an F sharp. All right, let's do it. And another time for practice. And here's what comes next. Up the scale. The next thing is arpeggio notes, key of G. What's in a G arpeggio? I know you know. So the notes are G, B, and D, or you can play them in the other order. D, B, G. They sound very harmonious for the reason that they are harmonious. That's defining how to have a harmonious scale and chord in the key of G is the first, third, and fifth notes of the scale played in sequence or together gives you a nice harmony. So that's our G arpeggio. So here's how the phrase of music actually goes. We have our scale coming up from E, arpeggio, and continuing on, it plays that arpeggio again. So the actual 2-bar phrase, the 3rd and 4th bars of this part of the tune. Up the scale, arpeggio, arpeggio again. Okay, how did this B part start? What did we start with?
No grace.
E, C.
Right, no pickup note. You're absolutely correct. Right, E, C, E. Climb the scale. 1 note lower. Up the scale. Arpeggio. So let's put that together and play through a few times. No pickup. Again. So far, so good? A few more practices
Yes,
on that?
please.
Let's do it. And again. How's that going? Next phrase starts exactly the same way. So there's only one bar that's different, right? It's otherwise the same 4-bar phrase. So the different thing, after we have, and the arpeggio, we have a different arpeggio. C, F sharp, so that we can land on a G and resolve the phrase. So let's just do that new arpeggio. So our second 4-bar phrase, climb the scale, 1 note down, climb the scale, arpeggio, other, and resolve. Okay, that's the second 4-bar phrase. What was the first 4-bar phrase?
It certainly had a grace.
It's almost the same.
Two arpeggios from the
2 arpeggios on G, yes. So the first time it ends. ending unresolved on an A note, right? Otherwise, everything else is the same. So let's do the B part, 8 bars, no pickup note. Repeat it. Yeah. All right. You got 8 bars. Well, guess what? There's more. However, there is almost nothing new. So the B part continues, sounding exactly the same. This is all the same. The second arpeggio. And then we grab stuff from the beginning. Does that sound really familiar?
Yes.
It should, because there's only one note that's different. And here's where I can't tell, based on my sources for this, and given that it got to us by the composer playing by ear and somebody listening and transcribing, I can't tell you if the composer really intended to play this part a little different, or if the transcriber just wrote it down one wrong note. If it were obvious to me, I would have fixed it. But the truth is that both ways sound perfectly good. I don't have any problem with either one of them. So the composer could have meant it. And so the one thing that's different, we play the B part, those 8 bars that we learned. Then we play the first 4 bars of it again. And then we grab the last 4 bars of the A part to finish off the tune. However, one note is different. And it's only in that scale section. And here's the last 4 bars of the tune. Second to last bar. The first, in the A part, we did skip the C note. This time it's skipping the B note. The effect is the same. And honestly, I won't get mad at you if you play it the same as in the A part. But it's just a little tiny difference that makes it a little fresh. So if the composer actually did it that way and meant it that way, I think that's an interesting idea, to make it just a little different. But if the composer actually intended to be consistent and just it got mistranscribed somehow, well, I think we can live with this. So let's learn our one new thing is this scale. Skip the B note. So let's do that again. All good? Let's try the B part. So the entire thing, 16 bars. part a few more times. And then at some point, I want to bring the A part back in, just so that we can get confused with the scale that has the B and the scale that has the C. All right, B part now. So that final scale is missing the B note. 16 bars of B part. From the beginning? Let's try the whole thing. Okay, we know how it starts because we just played that little bit, right? So here we go. Ready, go. The B part. And that's the whole tune. All right. We should, any questions? We should play it through a few times to see if we can get our speed a little more, well, a little closer to the dancing speed, right? Without losing any of our lilting and dotting. Any issues or questions? Other than I just came in? Okay. So let's do it. Okay, I want to try it through maybe twice with the speed bumped up a little bit. Are you ready for it? Nobody says anything, so I'll just, yes.
One quick question, the very last line as you come down, you're skipping the C.
The very last line, you're skipping the B.
So C to A.
Yes, C to A. And the other times when it happens, you're skipping the C note. So you were right about that, just not at the very end. Okay. are getting close to dancing speeds. We're not quite there yet, but close. You could maybe do a slowish dance to that.
Stately.
Yeah, it would be a little stately. It would have a little less bounce to it. Like I was saying, the jigs have the bounce. So that is the tune called Advance and Retire by David Ross. It was given to me by Linda Henderson, who is a Scottish dance teacher and an accordionist herself. And she's from Scotland. I should be remembering, I know the name of the place she's from. That's sort of near Edinburgh, but I've forgotten it at the moment. It's out of my head. But she actually knew Jim Johnston, the amazing accordion player, and quite a few other people she used to play with her dad in a dance band. And now she lives in California. Anyway, just a few weeks ago, I was doing a workshop with her in San Diego, and this was one of the tunes that she chose because it went with a dance that she wanted to teach. But she always thinks about the music when she's choosing what dances to teach, because she's very, very tuned into the music. All right, we should learn another tune. Would you like another tune by ear? The correct answer is yes. No, we always must do more than one tune by ear. I guess my question for you would be, what key are you in the mood for? And they're all jigs. I can't say, oh, how about this thing that's not, and everything this month is a jig. This is jig month. That is our workshop theme.
G, D,
I've got
C.
I've got a jig in A. I have one in A minor. I have another one in G, but I think we'd probably be.
Yeah, let's do a new key.
How about a new key? Do you want the A minor one?
Sure.
All right. This one's a little trickier to learn by ear, but it's still not hard. And this one, I have a story for it. This one is from Cape Breton. This is by a Cape Breton pianist named Lawrence Cameron. And I met Lawrence Cameron a few years back. I went to the Cape Breton Fiddlers Festival, which they put on a show by basically people show up and you sign up to play. And it goes on all weekend that way. While that might sound haphazard, in Cape Breton in the summertime, there are a lot of really awesome fiddlers around. So some of the people who performed were Howie McDonald, Kyle McNeil of the Barra McNeils, Ashley McIsaac. Has anybody heard of these people?
Actually, McIsaac.
Brenda Stubbert?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see, Stephanie Wills, Wendy McIsaac,
Yeah.
Dara Smith McDonald. I mean, these are some very famous people, and so depending on the year, you'll get any and all of those folks showing up to play. And then there will be group numbers by the Cape Breton Fiddlers Association, which is kind of like our Cape Breton counterpart, in that it's just whoever wants to perform as part of the group, you just learn the sets of music that they're going to be doing, and then when it's time for the group number interspersed with all these various individuals, you all file onto the stage, and then they tell you which one it's going to be. So, and then there are a number of pianists, amazing pianists, who are there to back people up, and usually it's just kind of arranged casually. In other words, I wouldn't show up with my band to perform. I would show up, and then I'd see who was there who would perform with me. So I go to Cape Breton regularly, so there are a number of people there that I know and who know me, but not everybody knows who I am. So I'm kind of from away. I'm from elsewhere. And so people don't necessarily know my repertoire. So I was playing my tunes backstage to a pianist saying, how about these tunes? Do you know these tunes? And she was like, you better ask Lawrence. So that's how I got introduced to Lawrence Cameron, because he was one of the pianists there, and I had not met him before. And I played the same tunes for Lawrence, and he said, yeah, I'll give that a go. So I performed on stage a few minutes later with my new best friend, Lawrence Cameron. And it was wonderful. He's a great guy. He plays really well. This is one of his compositions. It's called the Jig à Jeannette. Now, I don't know if it's Jig à Jeannette, Jig à Jeannette. I cannot tell you the correct answer, but it has that little French for Jeannette.
So for.
Jig for Jeannette, yeah. And so here's how the tune goes. So it's in the key of A minor with quite a few C chords in it. For a tune that's in A minor, it visits the key of C, its relative major key, quite often. So let's learn it. Pickup note is an E. Okay, and it goes through there are no sharps, by the way. So no C sharp, no F sharp. And we're just going to be playing on the A minor arpeggio. So let's get acquainted with those notes. Let's play A, C natural, E, and we're going to need a high A as well. We're going to be using all those notes in the... Now pause on the C, because the other one we're going to be using is the C major arpeggio, which is C, G. Right, so you'll be needing those notes as well. All right, so after that warm-up, what was the pickup note? E. And we're going to go down the A minor arpeggio from here, and then up. Jumping to the high A. Questions about particular notes or intervals or anything?
So far, so good.
So far, so good? Any questions?
Directly from the C to the A, yeah.
Yeah. That's a big jump, but that's exactly how it goes. Yeah. So let's play that again. All right, I'm going to move to the next measure, which is that C arpeggio. We're up here on the A note. We're just going to go to the G, and then it's G, E, C. We're going to add something to this. It's actually the lead into what comes next, but it's still notes within the C arpeggio, so I decided to add them here. So far, so good? Okay. The next bar, we're now on bar 3. End of phrase. So far, so good. Let's put the 4 bars together before we go any further. A pickup note of E, A minor arpeggio stuff, C major arpeggio stuff, and then stuff that's dealing with the key of G, D, B, and G notes with some interspersed. Let's play. Big jump, C, it's sounding good. Questions? I am moving a little faster on this one because this is our second ear tune. And I found if I don't move it along, people fall into that afternoon slump. Is there another option?
Another option, yeah.
Another jig?
Yeah.
Would you like a jig?
Yeah.
No, we're going to continue with this jig.
I can't change my mind very much.
No, I mean, I could bail on this one, but you'd be sad.
No,
You
no,
really
no.
do know want to Lawrence. You want to know Lawrence's jig, especially after I told the story
Got you.
about what a hero he was to just like leap into it and play these tunes that I knew that he didn't know and that the other pianists there didn't know. So, let's continue on. Let's play those 4 bars again, and let me map it out for you. A minor arpeggio with a big jump, the C arpeggio leading into a DB, and eventually landing on G. Let's play. And again. Is that working out, or at least sort of?
Sort of.
All right. I am going to move along because the next stuff starts the same except for some details. So we ended up on, to get back to the A arpeggio stuff, we just go up the G arpeggio together. You see how that works? So let's start with and stop there, because this is where the second time through goes a little differently. The first time we land on that D and we go down. The second time we land on that D, we go up. So we can land on A. All right, let's put it together. You want me to do just the final 4 bars? We need the pickup notes though. I'm going to take 3 of them. A G arpeggio leading into it. Going up and down. You're making such faces there.
Sorry. I'm officially brain dead.
Oh dear, here, and only on partway through the second tune. This is not a good sign. It's that might be that kind of a day.
I've been here since 8:30.
Yeah, you have a good excuse. I understand. But let's still try to get through this tune.
I didn't realize I was here.
All right, so I'm going to give you the lead-in of the prior bar. This is bar 4, and then we're doing 5, 6, 7, 8 for the end of the phrase. Arpeggio mode. Going up. Now you know what I'm intending, right? You can join me this time. Here we go. And from the beginning of the A part. To move it right along. As soon as we're done with this tune, the sooner I can hand out sheet music. All right, so one of the themes of this piece is that in general, it has 2 pickup notes for every phrase, and they're not just in the offbeat, they are played in rhythm. So see how I've moved right into the next phrase with intervening notes in rhythm. They're technically pickup notes, but they are 2 eighth notes, not a pair of 16ths just stuck in the offbeat, and not 1 eighth note only in the offbeat. It's 2 eighth notes, and they're part of a triplet. So visually, they'll be separated like, oh, there's the end of the A part, here's the beginning of the B part. In real life, they are a triplet, and it just moves on. It's a great segue. So moving on to the second part, I'm going to play the last bar so I can give you a live action version of how those pickup notes work. They are arpeggio notes. So here's the theme for the B part. So it's A arpeggio notes, and then that C arpeggio. Play that. Okay, here's some good news. That happens 6 times. No, 8 times. It happens 8 times in the B part. So the A part starts with doing again. And then right, so it has that theme that we just learned with different follow-ups. All right, so let's play our theme, A arpeggio notes, C arpeggio notes, twice. The follow-up, the first time, is start on G, go up the scale, and then the next bit is a repeated sequence. These notes in this order: D, G, E, just play a bunch of it. So it's a triplet that gets repeated. In the live action version of this, it's the scale, then that triplet. Again, and landing on a D. Because that's where you have to stop doing the, hit repeat. You can't just keep repeating. That triplet only actually goes twice plus the first note. That's how it goes. With the scale ahead of it. So now we can join it back to our A and C arpeggio bits. Again. Okay, next we have the theme coming back. And then the new follow-up. This is the second follow-up. So it's D, B, D. Hop to a G note and go up the scale. Right up to the high B note, and then land on high A. Add the theme ahead of that. Again. The third time, we get our same theme with the first follow-up. So the third equals the first. Let's remember how that goes. It goes. Right? That sounds familiar, right? Okay, let's do it. Home stretch, folks. We've only got one more phrase. Same theme. And that's the same as the second time. In fact, so I have the B part written out in its entirety. It's a direct repeat, except for some of the connector notes, which is why I wrote it out.
So it's kind of an ABA thing.
Yeah, it's an AABB form,
Yeah.
with the exception being that the connector notes are not exactly the same. So let's play the B part. And we're going to leave the connector notes out for now. I might start putting them in, and you can follow me on them. But the essentials of the tune are that repeated theme with the A minor, C, and then something on a G. The repeated thing, or... All right? B part. Here we go. Ready, go. Of cutting down the pain, we're going to go back to the beginning, play the A part twice, and this B part, which is sort of twice, other than the connectors, and then we'll call it a tune.
Call it a tune.
Here we go. The B part. All right, so that's the tune. Shall we try it a few times through? And if you want to start joining me on connector notes, or your best guess at them, go for it. Try to at least get those themes, right? The arpeggio and the C arpeggio. And the B part. All right? So at least join for those, even if you lose track of all the other details. Here we go. Ready, go. That's Jig Jeanette. All right, you're ready to stretch. I can take a hint here, so I'm not gonna make you learn another one by ear. All right, so did people print out music or do you need paper? So for those who need paper, each little stack of 4 sheets is the complete set. So just take a little set off the top. And we don't have, so I didn't bring the clipboard for signing up your name. So I'll have to make something up here.
We have seniors too.
There should be plenty of sets for everybody here. I printed out more than the number attending today. Okay, and then I'm gonna send around this piece of paper on a folder with a pen. And just please write your name that you got April Music picked up.
Whether we printed it out or
Whether you printed it or picked up here. All right, here's the folder.
Oh, okay. I don't think I can read
Okay.
it. I'm sorry. I've got my file on my knee.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
All right. So some other.
Music for other months.
Do I have music for other months? Yes.
Okay.
I
I
do.
will deal with you about that later.
Yep. When we take a break, then you can come up and get music from prior months. I've got all of it here.
Okay.
Also, I want to let you know about the Scottish dance party that we are putting on. I don't know anything about the rehearsals, dates, or where they are. And I haven't heard from Becky, who I think is traveling right now. So I'm not certain about the rehearsal schedule. The date was booked at Glen Echo Town Hall, but there were 2 options that I knew about, and I'm not sure which one was settled.
I think it was the 24th.
Does the 24th sound right to people?
Yeah. So that
Okay, so I have a flyer that has both dates on it, but on the set list I have the May 24th because I thought that was the one. So it's the usual thing where to perform in the band you need to go to rehearsals so that you know about what tunes are being played. As usual, we only add a few new things to our sets. A lot of the sets are, if you've done one of these Fiddle Club dances before, you recognize most of the music. The lead tune might change and the order might change because of the way it works with the dances that were selected. Because we always do different dances. We don't do the same dance program every time. Makes it more fun for the dancers. Oh yeah, anybody not signed up for receiving sheet music this time, please put your name on the list so that
To sign up for,
it's just saying you got music this month. So that we don't get confused and try to mail you music later.
And when do we
I had it online.
are we able to print the
Print out
sets
nice
that you
and
picked out?
Yeah, so I'll be getting those to Peter tonight.
Oh,
And so as soon as he's able to post them, they would be available online.
okay, thank you.
What do we think are the date or possible dates of the
Oh, May 24th.
basement?
They remembered May 24th, and that was one of the dates that I knew was a
Okay.
possibility. So, May 24th. Yeah, sorry I'm not a little more organized on this. However, my job is to create the dance program and MC it and create the sets. And it's somebody else's job to rehearse the sets and actually run the music part of the dance. Because this is meant to be a learning experience on multiple levels. So if you've never played for a dance before, you can do this because you do not have to play every tune. You can just play the tunes that you know well or are comfortable with or that you feel comfortable learning for this occasion. If you're a more advanced player, then you can get used to playing an entire program, get used to playing at dance tempo. If you're an even more advanced player, one of the skills that's being practiced here is setting tempos, cueing in the band, and keeping everybody together. So it's a multi-level learning experience for all of the participants. And for me, I get to practice being a dance MC. I actually qualified more than 30 years ago to do this, and I only put into practice once a year for the Fiddle Club dance. So it's good for me to exercise that skill once in a while.
Is this an afternoon or evening dance?
It's going to be an afternoon dance. And it's at one of our usual locations that we've had over the years. We've been doing this this is our 27th Fiddle Club dance party. And that's, we're only 32 years old as an organization, and we took a few years off for COVID times, so we're actually doing pretty well at having a dance at least once a year. And what was I about to say? The location is Glen Echo Town Hall. If you know where Glen Echo Park is, this is not it.
Okay.
But just a few streets away from the big parking area for Glen Echo Park is the town hall of the town of Glen Echo. And we've had dances there.
It's like upstairs?
It's upstairs. There's a post office on the lower floor.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that upper floor is a great big room and has a piano in it. And it's a lovely place to dance. Okay. So let's do a few more tunes. And we might as well start on page 27. So just a few years ago, I don't know, like 3 years ago or something, we had a workshop featuring the music of John Pringle, who was a late 18th century, early 19th century Scottish fiddler, composer. We featured tunes composed by him, some of which are quite famous. This tune, House of Grey, is from his collection, but it's not his original tune. It's quite a bit older. This is his arrangement, though, and it's quite an interesting one. We've had this tune before in the key of A minor from the Aird collection. And if you remember all the workshops I did on the Aird collection, we did one book a year, every other year for 12 years. And we got all our way through the Aird collection. The Aird collection was put together for multi-instrument use, and it was intended to be really portable. The original Aird collections are little booklets about that big, stuffed with tunes. And so they were meant to be really flexible. And G minor is not a great key for whistles and old style flutes. So they play, in Aird collection, they moved it to the key of A minor because that's a lot easier for those instruments. But I think the original key of this House of Grey was, in fact, G minor. And so to get John Pringle's version of it is pretty nice. I like this version of House of Grey. Let's play a little slower than the tempo I just demoed it at. All right? House of Grey, John Pringle's version. So to me, this key of G minor makes this tune sound much older. And the reason is that keys like G minor and F were favored in the early 18th century in Scotland. And that's the legacy of the popularity of the lute in Scotland, which plays natively in keys like G minor and F quite readily. All right.
So lute was an accompaniment, used it as an accompaniment.
The lute would have probably played the melody. I mean, they did, lute players could accompany,
Yeah.
but most of what we have of Scottish lute music is melodies with bass notes. I mean, there'd be with some accompaniment inherent in the instrument, but they're mainly playing the melody, the arrangements of the melodies.
This is a pedantic question, but do you have any idea if they were using a flat pick or playing finger style?
Fingers. Yeah, they would use a plectrum with the cittern, or English guitar, which is a related instrument, but it's not the same. The lute was played with fingers, as far as I know. I'm trying to, not being a lute player, I might answer incorrectly. But I have done a lot of research into Scottish lute music. It's one of the things I've done is transcribed quite a few lute pieces from their manuscript, which is in tablature, to standard format that other musicians who don't play tablature can read.
Bach composed for the lute, of course.
Yes, lute was a really popular instrument.
Yeah.
For us, it's like, oh, that's some esoteric thing. But if you think of it as being about as popular as people noodling around on the guitar is now, that's how popular it was.
But if you played the lute for 10 years, it's been 5 years tuning, is that correct?
That's true of any instrument with gut strings. And the more gut strings you have, the longer you spend tuning it.
Is the lute tablature, is it like high note to low or low note?
High notes to low.
Okay.
And then they'll even have little extras so that you can get all the bass notes. Because a lute is arranged so that it has a number of strings for playing the melody. And then, depending on the lute, more or less of extension strings for playing bass. And a lot of those bass strings were just
Free.
a note. They were not fingered.
Yeah.
Right,
Like it
so you would
offers
just
you
hit
all
them,
that time.
you would hit them so that the bass note would ring out and keep ringing while you're playing the melody up on the higher strings.
Yeah. There's a guitar called harp guitar that has all those free.
Yeah, exactly. I have a friend who plays harp guitar,
Look,
and so it's like a guitar with this little array of
Amazing.
extra bass strings. Yeah, it's quite a thing. But that's really just parallel to that lute tradition. It's just getting it in the shape of a guitar, which is a little more robust in holding its tuning. Although the harp guitar is also kind of awkward to tune, knowing somebody who plays it. The thing about studying the lute tablature is, even though I don't play the lute, I know how those tunes were fingered, because that's what tablature tells you, is exactly what finger to put in what spot. Unlike our sheet music, which just tells you what note to play, but it's up to you to figure out how to do it. The tablature tells you how. All right, but that's not relevant to our new tune. Miss Barbara Campbell's Jig. This is one that John Pringle wrote, and let me play it for you. About this one was that it keeps recirculating. It has no stop. Every ending is moving you right along to the next thing. And so it doesn't let you resolve. You have to play it again.
So and then would you segue into another
Yeah,
tune,
you would
probably?
segue into another tune. It's it's ending right there on the D7 chord. You have to do go somewhere, right? It's leading you right along to playing something that starts on that note in the key of G. So let's play Miss Barbara Campbell. Slower to get acquainted with it. Keeps going. All right, that's Miss Barbara Campbell. I always also like how in this collection, jig is spelled with an extra G. All right, so then we have Jig for Judy on page 28. This is Judy with an I, which makes me think that it was written for Judy Nicholson, who is a contemporary Scottish fiddler. I invited her to play at Scottish Weekend a few years back. And she's really, really fun. She loves playing dance music, and she has a great repertoire of modern tunes. So Graham Mitchell is an accordionist, and Judy often plays with an accordion in her band. Let me play the tune for you. Tell this is a more modern tune is that it has longer phrases. We were working through tunes that had 2-bar question, 2-bar answer, 4-bar phrase. 2 4-bar phrases makes half the tune. In this case, the phrase is longer. If I play 4 bars of this, it's unresolved. It needs more. But after 8 bars, it's still unresolved. And that's what I'm talking about. The more modern tunes being composed in Scotland, throughout the 20th century and currently, more of them are of this longer format where you have to play 32 bars to get the picture. And if you look back at older music, it's more like you can play 16 bars and get the full tune. And some of the even older tunes, you play 8 bars and you've got the full tune. And I even know some where you play 4 bars and you have the whole tune. So if you go back far enough in history, they tended to have briefer expressions of music, musicality. And now we have to go on blah, 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 blah for long. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just that it's definitely a different sense of what is the right phrasing. All right. And thank you for coming if you have to leave early.
Yeah, I do have to go.
Yeah. All right, so let's play Jig for Judy. I think that one's a lot of fun. I think it's a charming tune. All right, we already learned Advance and Retire by ear. So now let's go to Over the Cabot Trail, which is one that I was thinking of teaching you by ear. As you can see, it's short. Oh.
I should have, yeah.
This one is very popular. Donald Angus Beaton is a Cape Breton composer who we featured more than 10 years ago. I don't remember now how long ago we did a Donald Angus Beaton feature. But he composed quite a lot of tunes that are very commonly played. So I'm trying to think of some of the ones that are best known, and now I'm blanking on it. I know that I played a couple of tunes by him just recently at the very last dance performance I did. I played some Donald Angus Beaton tunes. So the Cabot Trail is the road that encircles the highlands of Cape Breton. So it's extremely scenic. So like mountains on one side and the sea on the other side. And there are stories that there's a right way and a wrong way to go about the Cabot Trail, but I think it depends on what you're looking for. So if you're going during the daytime, go around from east to north to west, because then you're on the seaside and you get the best views. If you're driving it late at night, drive the other way around, because then if you have to pass somebody, you're on the inside and not on the cliffside. So that's the folk wisdom on how to drive the Cabot Trail. Let me play the tune for you. So if you were to go to a dance in Cape Breton, there'd be a good chance you'd hear somebody playing that tune. It shows up at jam sessions a lot too. Okay, let's take it a little slower. All right, so that is Over the Cabot Trail. For the next one, the Old Spedlings Castle's Ghosts Dance. So, yes, in fact, I've had to play it on for Halloween dance. So it's by this guy named James Porteous. And if you know any details about the Scottish history, there were the Porteous riots. I think they were in the 18th century, and I don't even remember what they were about. I should have looked this up. But he was descended from the individual involved in that event for whom it was named. But I do not know what the reasons or anything were about it, other than it's a notable event in Scottish history. He did make the composer, James, did make a fuss about it because a lot of the pieces in his books of compositions are meant to be programmatic. Like, he didn't just read Walter Scott's novels, he wrote tunes that were supposed to represent scenes from those novels. And so they'd be named after fictional characters or named after particular events and places. So that's the case with this Old Spedlings Castle's Ghost Dance. There is in fact, a Spedlings Castle ruins. It's the castle is reputed to have a ghost. And why wouldn't the ghost dance? Right. Now, Charlie Gore, who is the great indexer of Scottish fiddle music, he's gone and found all of the printed sources he could from the beginning of printing of Scottish fiddle tunes through 1927, which is a date he picked because that was when James Scott Skinner died. And so he figured that that's sort of the end of a certain historic era, and after 1927, those items were more readily available to modern people. So he's really a great indexer of the history of Scottish fiddle music. Charlie Gore's opinion on James Porteous was, what did he call it? He called it, it was like getting the, what's like the booby prize? There's certain ones that are awarded quite famously, right? In any case, he said that this guy gets the prize for writing the dumbest tunes. I would argue that's not really true, because I've played through another collection where, honestly, of the entire book, there were 2 good tunes in it. And I have not featured that one in a workshop. You can thank me for that. I have put some of those 2 tunes, I have definitely played. I even recorded one of them. But man, that is not a good batting average for 2 tunes out of 80 pages of tunes. Anyway, James Porteous has similar, these tunes. At first you play them and you're like, oh, what a dud. But his tunes have been championed by this band called Green Ginger, and I have a photograph of them. They are performing in historic costume, because this is what they do, is that they like to promote historic dance and the contemporary music that goes with it. And I'll hold this up to the screen so that those who are watching the recorded version of this can get the idea. So James Porteous is from the era of the earlier decades of the 1800s. And Green Ginger recorded the Old Spedlings Castle's Ghost Dance medley, which includes this tune and a few others written by James Porteous that I think are named for people involved in the Old Spedlings Castle, or the ghost thereof. So if I just play this tune for you, it will not convey the absolute joy that Green Ginger puts in it. They play with harmonies and excitement, and I actually, when I listened to it, I was listening on a downloadable site, and you could send comments, and I sent a comment to the band. It was basically, who knew that James Porteous could sound this good? And they wrote back to me, and they understood the humor in that particular comment. But yeah, so on the surface of this would have been a really easy one to teach by ear, because it's quite formulaic. But let's see if I can put a little bit of the Green Ginger excitement into this.
Castle Ghosts dance.
Ghost, according to the music anyway. Yeah, this is a very cheerful ghost. I mean, if you were expecting one of those spooky sounding tunes, no, this is not that kind of ghost, apparently, at least according to James Porteous. All right, so let's see what we can do with it. I changed one harmony note, you see in the double stop section at the end. Because Green Ginger uses the F sharp minor chord, Porteous writes it as if it's an A chord. And so I changed the harmony note. Other than that, this is as originally written. Okay. Yeah, second finger on both strings. So if you're not used to doing those, it's a little bit squidged around from being in tune on either one of those strings. So you actually have to practice the double stop and work on it until both notes are in tune. Yeah, it's a trick, but it's well worth
For
it.
the E, you use the fourth finger.
I changed that because I find that inconvenient. And I also think it's more in keeping with the progression of the bass note. I play a B instead of, that's inconvenient. I mean, if I were playing a different instrument,
Yeah.
maybe. However, I'm not giving James Porteous a whole lot of credit for knowing, like awesome bass lines. There are composers who write awesome bass lines. He's not one of them. Okay, speaking of more awesome bass lines, let's play Jim Connor's Jig, which is by Jim Johnston. So I told you at the beginning about Linda Henderson, who gave me that tune Advance and Retire from David Ross, and how she grew up playing in a band with her dad, playing accordion, and playing with some really great accordion players. And one of them was Jim Johnston. And he's one of my favorite accordion composers. He's no longer with us. He passed away about 15 or maybe 20 years ago at this point. And I'm just sorry I never got a chance to hear him play live, because I just know from his music that he was awesome. It's really quite obvious the types of tunes he writes. So Jim Connor's Jig goes like this. Jim Johnston's tunes. I think it's about 12 or 15 years ago I did a feature on 3 accordion players. Jim Johnston was one of them, and the other was Andrew Rankin and Bobby Frew, I think. Anyway, let's play this tune. And we can't get the full effect because we don't have anybody playing the chords, which are actually quite a lot of fun. They move around more, which is typical of the accordion style. And then we have another one of our ear tunes, Jig Jeanette, or Jeanette. And we don't have more pages of tunes. I was merciful after last month when I bombarded you with so many. So why don't we just go through our ear tunes and one more time. So let's play Jeanette since it's on this page, and then after that we can do the other one that you learned by ear, advance and retire, the one we started with. But let's Jeanette right now. 2, 3. How about advance and retire? Anybody up for it without looking?
No.
Too many tunes between then and now. Let's go for it though. You can look if you want. Oh, you wanted to play it again? Yes? No? Done? All right, done. Okay, so this was our feature of jigs. I hope you enjoyed the selection. I didn't particularly aim to, give you the full range of Scottish jigs or the full range of jig composers, but just to give you a little snapshot of a few different styles. One category that I missed was some of the older jigs. I also missed doing the serious jigs. And I also missed doing the truly ridiculous jigs, although the Old Spedling's Castle Ghost Dance kind of comes close. Yeah, it kind of fits that category. But it's a special case, even amongst silly jigs. And, yeah.
It's been a long time, but to make the bowing Scottish, do you have any suggestions on slurs? I kind of remember what you did years ago, but I thought.
So my brief bowings for, where to put slurs in Scottish jigs. So if I have a quarter note, eighth note figure, and I start it up bow, I usually slur it. But not always. I would not slur part of a triplet. So if I'm doing, those are all going to be separate or they're going to be in one bow. There are other styles of playing jig where you slur 2 out of the 3. We don't do that in Scottish music. It's not a very Scottish bowing. The other thing that I would say about getting the lilt, I like to take it from both directions. I either play and try to stretch it out until I'm lilting to whatever degree I want, or I'll take it from the other direction. So that's coming in the back door to get the same lilt idea. but basically, the operating factor here for bowing jigs is that you have a lot of triplets. If you're bowing correctly, you're going to have ones that start down bow and triplets that start up bow. So you have to be able to do this rhythm either direction. And so that's kind of the main trick, is to be able to put the lilt in it no matter the direction of your bow. And jigs in general are just much freer on what is acceptable bowing versus strathspeys and reels, where it really makes sense to bow in a more organized fashion. So you can get away with a lot in jigs. They're quite forgiving in certain respects. But they are one of the three pillars of Scottish country dance. They dance jigs, reels, and strathspeys. Although one dance group that I taught in Africa, they did jigs, reels, and cold drinks. But it's a different place and time, so. All right. So that is jigs for April.
Thank you.
And I'm going to sign off from the no longer live stream, but the recorded stream. Thank you for watching if you're watching this after the fact.